The entire wrestling world is holding its breath. For months, The Rock has been silent, watching from the shadows, observing everything unfold. Then Roman Reigns launches a vicious attack on CM Punk that shocks everyone in attendance. And suddenly, The Rock's voice cuts through the noise with a message so chilling, so direct, that it immediately reframes the entire power dynamic of WWE's most important storylines. What The Rock is about to say to CM Punk could mean everything changes, and no one's prepared for the implications of the Great One finally stepping into this narrative. Let's break down what this moment means, why The Rock breaking his silence right now is potentially catastrophic for Roman Reigns, and how this speculative scenario fundamentally reshapes the entire landscape of WWE's main event picture. First, understand the context. Roman Reigns has been positioned as the alpha, the tribal chief, the man who controls WWE's fate. He's had answers for everyone who stepped in front of him, but The Rock represents something Roman can't fully control. The Rock is the biggest star professional wrestling has ever produced. He transcends wrestling. He exists on a level of celebrity that even Roman's character, with all its power and dominance, can't quite match. So when The Rock finally speaks, people listen. The entire industry leans in. Now, why would The Rock feel compelled to address CM Punk specifically after Roman's attack? Consider the psychology here. The Rock and CM Punk have history. They've had differences of opinion about what wrestling means, about what the business should be, about authenticity and legacy. But there's also mutual respect buried underneath that tension. Punk has always been someone who stands on his principles, who refuses to back down even when the odds are completely stacked against him. That's something The Rock understands on a fundamental level. Both men have always fought for what they believed in, even when the entire machine was working against them. So when Roman attacks Punk in a moment where Punk might have been vulnerable, when Roman's using his faction and his power to try to silence someone who won't stay silent, The Rock sees something that offends his entire wrestling philosophy. He sees a top star using overwhelming force to suppress someone's voice. He sees the kind of manipulation and control that The Rock himself fought against throughout his entire career. That's what compels him to break his silence. Imagine what The Rock might be saying. Maybe it's something like, "Roman, I've been watching. I've been listening. I've been wondering when you were going to realize that you can't control everything. You can't control me. You can't control CM Punk. You can't control the fact that the wrestling world knows the truth about what you are. Punk's been saying things you don't want to hear, and instead of stepping into a ring and proving him wrong, you orchestrated an attack. That's not what champions do. That's what cowards do. And I came back because someone needed to remind you that there are consequences when you try to silence people. If you want to understand what real power looks like, keep going down this path." This message is absolutely devastating to Roman's character because it attacks the very foundation of his power fantasy. Roman's entire narrative has been built on the idea that he's untouchable, that he controls everyone and everything around him. Having The Rock step in and suggest that Roman is actually afraid, that he's resorting to cowardly tactics, that he's losing control, fundamentally undermines Roman's position. Think about what this does to CM Punk's character arc. Punk doesn't need The Rock to save him. Punk's always been capable of saving himself. But having The Rock acknowledge that Punk's been right, that Punk's been calling out things that matter, that Punk's been standing for something real in a landscape full of manufactured narratives, that's validation on a level that transforms Punk into something more than just a rebellious voice. It makes Punk a voice that even The Rock respects. The implications for the bloodline are absolutely massive. Roman's been the center of gravity for that entire faction. Everything revolves around Roman's power, Roman's decisions, Roman's will. But if The Rock steps in and establishes himself as someone Roman can't control, can't intimidate, can't use his usual tactics against, suddenly the bloodline's invincibility becomes questionable. Other factions are going to be watching this dynamic shift very carefully. What makes this moment so powerful narratively is that it's not just about a feud. It's about ideological conflict. It's about what wrestling means. Roman represents control, dominance, and the idea that power justifies everything. CM Punk represents the notion that authenticity and principle matter more than political positioning. The Rock, in stepping in, is essentially saying that the world agrees with Punk's philosophy. That's a massive statement. Consider the wrestling psychology of this situation. The Rock is establishing himself as a gravitational force that Roman has to reckon with. Roman can't just dismiss The Rock the way he dismisses other wrestlers. Roman can't use his bloodline to gang up on The Rock, because The Rock exists outside the normal power structure. Roman can't control this narrative the way he's controlled every other narrative in his title run. The Rock just removed Roman's greatest tool, the ability to define the rules of engagement. Now think about what happens next. Does this lead to a confrontation between The Rock and Roman? Does it lead to Roman trying to prove he can still dominate someone he can't control? Does it lead to CM Punk and The Rock joining forces against the bloodline? Does it create a scenario where Roman has to change his entire approach because his old tactics aren't working anymore? All of those possibilities are now on the table, and every single one of them is compelling because The Rock just entered the equation. From CM Punk's perspective, this is absolutely crucial validation. Punk has always positioned himself as someone telling uncomfortable truths. Having The Rock essentially co-sign that message, saying that he's been watching and he agrees that something's wrong with what Roman's doing, transforms Punk from a lone voice into part of a larger movement. It's not just CM Punk saying the tribal chief is wrong anymore. It's The Rock and CM Punk saying it together. What's brilliant about this scenario is how it respects both The Rock's character and CM Punk's character. The Rock isn't saving Punk. The Rock is acknowledging that Punk's been fighting for something that matters. The Rock is using his massive platform and his unquestionable credibility to amplify Punk's message. That's respectful. That's two strong personalities recognizing truth in each other despite their differences. The statement The Rock makes also has massive implications for how WWE moves forward narratively. It establishes that there are limits to Roman's control. It establishes that the old way of doing things, the intimidation-based power structure, isn't going to work against everyone. It establishes that professional wrestling as a platform still has space for people who refuse to be silenced, who refuse to conform, who refuse to accept the narrative that's being fed to them. Think about how The Rock's voice carries weight in the wrestling world. He's not just a wrestler. He's an icon. He's someone who transcended wrestling and proved that a wrestler could become something bigger. So when The Rock speaks, when he breaks his silence, when he addresses someone directly, it carries gravity that most other voices can't match. His message to CM Punk isn't just words. It's validation that what Punk's been saying has been heard by people who matter. This moment also sets up massive storytelling potential moving forward. The Rock's involvement changes everything. It raises the stakes. It brings a new energy into the narrative. It creates possibilities that didn't exist before. Maybe this leads to new main event programs. Maybe this leads to unexpected alliances. Maybe this leads to feuds that people didn't anticipate but absolutely need to see. What makes professional wrestling's narrative structure so incredible is that one person breaking their silence, one message delivered at the right moment, can completely reshape the entire landscape of what's being told. The Rock just did that. He just changed the game by acknowledging what CM Punk's been saying and making it clear that he's willing to stand against Roman Reigns if that's what needs to happen. If you want to explore these monumental moments where wrestling's biggest voices enter critical narratives, where character psychology determines the direction of feuds, where one message can reshape an entire power structure, and where wrestlers at the absolute highest level use their credibility to validate or challenge everything happening around them, then you need to subscribe to WWE Express. We dive deep into these moments, these implications, and these speculative scenarios that make professional wrestling the most compelling form of storytelling and entertainment. Subscribe to WWE Express, and thanks for watching.